All right, guys, I hope you're ready for the week. Today's math lesson is, I'll be honest, it's a little tricky. It's a little hard, but the hardest part of it is it's word problems, and word problems feel so impossible. So we're going to do a lot of these together today. I need you to go in with a open mind and know that they're going to be a little hard, but we're going to figure them out together for the most part, even though I'm not sitting in the same room as you. So we are going to start first by making sure you've got your SAB. And homework journal's fine, but definitely need that sharpened pencil ready to go. And also, just so you guys know, this is actually the last lesson for 6-10. What you're going to do tomorrow is review, and then you actually have a test this week. Let me lessen your fears just a little bit. It is going to be way shorter than a normal test we would do in class, and in fact, some of them will even be multiple choice, if not all of them. I haven't finished putting it together yet. So, open up to 6-10 with me, and we're going to go ahead and solve this first one, which is actually one problem sort of broken apart, kind of like we did at the very beginning of this unit. So, this says to solve each problem, Number 1 says 4 college roommates drove 1,050 miles to Florida for spring break. Xavier drove 300 more miles than Yuri, and Yuri drove 200 more miles than Zach, who drove 60 miles. We want to know how many miles did Walter drive. Well, holy cow, there's a lot going on. Just a heads up, X is going to stand for Xavier, Y will be for Yuri, and then Z will be for Zach, and then we also have W to show for Walter, okay? So it's actually going to help us solve this problem because there's so much going on. So first we want to know how many miles did Zach drive, and Zach drove 60 miles. That's the one we know for sure, okay? Then it says, what expression represents the miles that Yuri drove? Well, Yuri, it says, he drove 200 more miles than Zach. So we're going to do 200 miles more than Zach. That should be 200 plus 60. My pen did something funky there. And then it says, what expression represents the miles that Xavier drove? Well, Xavier drove 300 more miles than Yuri. So we're going to do this 200 plus 60 that Yuri drove. And then it looks like Xavier drove 300 more. Okay, still following along? Now it says the number of miles that Walter drove is the number of miles that Zach, Yuri, and Xavier drove, subtracted from this number that they drove all together. Okay, so we're going to write an equation here. So this is going to tell me Walter drove, if we took this 1,050 miles that it takes to get to Florida, and we subtract that from however much we have so far. So we know that Zach drove 60. We know that Yuri drove 200 plus 60. And we know that Xavier drove 300 more than how much Yuri drove. Holy cow, that's a long problem. In fact, I have a whole bunch of parentheses here that I need to take care of, okay? So all in all, this doesn't seem too bad. It's actually adding together, and it's mostly just adding together large numbers that all end in 0, so that's pretty good. So I'm going to just go ahead and through, and I'm going to add some of the easy stuff. The good news about adding numbers... Okay, Dell, go away. The good news about adding numbers together is it doesn't matter what order you do. So 200 plus 300 is 500. Plus another 200 is 700, so I've got 700 there. And then here I have 60, 120, 180. So I'm going to add 180 to that. So that tells me that the other three guys drove all together 880 miles, okay? Now the last thing that I need to do is take the full trip's 1,050 miles, and I need to subtract 880 from that. 0 minus 0 is 0. I can't do 5 minus 8, and I can't borrow from here. So we'll make that a 10 before we make it a 9. So this is a 15. So then 15 minus 8 is 7, and then 9 minus 8 is 1. So that tells me that Walter, altogether, drove 170 miles. So again, not necessarily hard, It's just that that problem literally took us like 4 minutes, which is a long time. Okay, so let's try a few of these other ones together. Let's look at Sasha. It says she earns $8 per hour working at her grandparents' farm. During July, she worked 39.5 hours at the farm and earned $47 babysitting. And then it says, how many more dollars does Sasha need to earn to buy a gadget that costs $399? So again, there's just a lot going on, but don't get overwhelmed. Start first with what you know. She earns $8 an hour and she worked 39.5 hours. So let's solve that first. We're going to do 39.5 times 8. Well, what I actually think might be easier on this one, let's make this into a decimal. So let's do 39.5 times 8, and that's going to make this problem easier. 8 times 5, is 40, so I'll carry the 4. 8 times 9 is 72, and 72 plus 4 is 76. And then 8 times 3 is 24. 24 plus 7, I think, is 31. Hopefully I did that part right. Yeah, 24. And then plus 10 would be 30. Yeah, okay, good. So that's 3,160. However, I had one number after the decimal point, so I need one number after the decimal point. So here's what I know so far. I know that Sasha earned $316 at the farm, okay? Then it says she earned $47 babysitting. So we just need to add that to our total. So she's going to add $47 for babysitting, which is going to give us $363 so far that she has earned, okay? So our very last thing that we need to do, she wants to buy a gadget that's going to cost $399. So the last thing that we need to do is take this $399 and subtract what she has earned so far. 9 minus 3 is 6. 9 minus 6 is 3. So it looks like she needs to earn $36 more. Now, I'm going to get a little crazy and show you what the actual equation would be here. And I know we already did all the work, but just so you can see what it looks like. We want to figure out the difference between what she's earned so far and what she still needs to earn. So that's why you're going to start with that $399, and then you're going to subtract all the work that you did. So you did 39.5 times 8. That was one thing that you did. And then we also added 47, is that right? Because that's how much she had earned. So then we also added 47. And you could put that all in a, no, we don't want to add 47. Well, we want to add 47 to that total right there. So I'm going to put these in bigger brackets, okay? So we want to also add together the 47 that she earned, and then that will tell us what to subtract from 399. You also could just get rid of these brackets and tell you that you want to subtract 47, okay? Gosh, I don't know about you guys. I'm already pretty exhausted from that problem. Well, let's look at number 3. We're not going to solve all of these today because you're going to do some on your own. But let's look at number 3. So number 3 was Anya, Jose, Callie, and Steven. They walk for exercise. Anya's route is 2.25 kilometers long. Jose's route is 1.5 fewer kilometers. So how do we show fewer? That's going to be subtraction. Then it says Callie's route is 1.5 times as long as Jose. So once we figure out this number, that will help us figure out Callie's, because Callie's route is 1.5 times as long. And then it's 2 fewer kilometers than Steven's route. So this number will end up being even less than Steven's route. Okay? So let's go ahead and just start to solve this problem. Let's start with the easy part first. We've got to figure out Anya's route is 2.25 miles long, and Jose's route is 1.5 fewer. So we're going to subtract 1.5 first. All I'm going to do is make this oh no, wait, that was 1/4, my fault. I'm going to make this 2/4 so that I can actually solve this. So that means that this will be 2.25 minus 1 2/4, right? So you can't do 1/4 minus 2/4, so I'm going to have to borrow there. So this becomes 5/4 minus 2/4, which is 3/4, okay? So I know that Anya traveled 2.25 miles, and I know that Jose has now traveled 3/4 of a mile, okay? Well, it says that Callie's route is 1.5 times Jose's. So I need to take Jose's number, which is 3/4, and I'm going to multiply it by 1.5. But before I do that, I am actually going to change it to an improper fraction to make this problem a little easier. And I can't do any sort of cross-canceling, so I'm just going to multiply. 3 times 3 is 9, and 4 times 2 is 8. And I know that that equals 1 1/8 in mixed numbers. So that tells me that Callie has traveled 1 1/8 miles, right? Okay, let's keep going. And it says Callie has gone 2 fewer kilometers than Stephen. So in order to find Stephen, we just have to do 1 1/8 and add 2 to that number. So that's going to be 3 1/8. So that means Stephen has traveled 3 1/8. I'm not even going to worry about the the equation on that one because we don't have time for that today, okay? But it would basically be a combination of all these things. Okay, I'm going to extend the page because I clearly need a little bit more room, but I want to make sure I can still read this problem. And I'm going to use green pen on this guy. So this says a $750 gift card was shared equally by 5 people. Let's think about how we would show that. $750 gift card or gift was shared equally by 5 people, right? Then it says after spending $90 of her share. Well, this is still going to tell us what her share is, so we can subtract $90 from that afterwards, and we don't even need parentheses or anything like that because order of operations tells me to do that part first, right? So it says after spending $90 of her share, Clarissa divided the amount remaining into 2 equal parts. So once I figure all of this out, I'm going to then divide by 2. And if I do that, that will actually end up telling me, I think, my entire answer, because then it just says what amount of money does each part represent. So let's now solve to see if this is correct. First thing I'm going to do is this 750 divided by 5. If you know your money pretty well, this isn't too bad, but I'll just go ahead and show it to you. 5 goes into 7 once. 5 goes into 25 5 times. And then it looks like 150 is the share right here. Then it says 150 minus 90, which ends up being 60. And then we're going to do 60 divided by 2, which means it's $30, I guess, per share. Okay? And that is the correct answer. So here's the deal. This is the only 3 problems that I want you to do today, and I want you to do them right now. So you're not going to do homework and remembering pages. I do not want you to worry about that darn puzzled penguin at the bottom of the page. I just want you to do these 3 problems for your practice, okay? The equation is the hardest part, so just try to come up with the final answer, and I want you to pause the video. I really hope that you pause the video, and I really hope you practice these on your own, you guys, because this is going to be a good indicator of if you're ready for our test, all right? So again, hopefully you paused the video, and I'm just going to real super fast give you the answers to these 3 problems, okay? I'm not even going to read them. I'm short on time, so I'm just going to read to you the answers. So this one would have been C. It's okay if you didn't use a variable, but you would have done 50 minus 24 minus, oh gosh, this is a hard one, 5/8 times 24, and then that would have given you the answer of $11. Hopefully you got that one correct. If not, log into Zoom. This next one would have been P equals, what is that, 5 plus 1, and then it would have been divided by 3 plus 1, and then P would have equaled 3 pencils. And then finally for number 7, P, it says it's the remainder of 6 plus 78 plus 10 divided by 32. And then it told me that P equals 30 passengers. Okay, so again, skip puzzled penguin. And again, for today, I actually think you should be done. If you paused, you're good to go. You can give yourself a check. If you did not pause and you just watched instead, you need to go back and do one of those 2 options. And no matter what, please, please, please log into Zoom if you're needing any help. Good luck, guys.